Good afternoon and welcome to Inside Politics, a segment of the BDTV Breakfast Show where we explore events shaping both national and international politics. I'm in Yobongi work. Today, we'll be focusing on the failed 250 million World Bank Third National Urban Sector Reform Project. According to a new report by the Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa, CAPPA, the project was meant to provide access to potable water to communities in some states across Nigeria, but failed to achieve its goal. The report showed that most of the World Bank loan for water supply in 4 states in Nigeria, including Ekiti, Rivers, and Bauchi, are looted, while there are few water supply on the ground. On the show today, to give us more insight about this report, we are asking questions on reason for the failed project, what the project means for Nigerians, and where the money went to. To provide in-depth information on the topic, we are being joined by Sefa Ikpa. He's the Program Officer, Water Campaign at CAPPA. He'll be giving us insight into this report. Good afternoon and welcome to the program, Sefa Ikpa.
Good afternoon, Ini. Thank you for having me.
Yes, good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Let me start. What necessitated this research that gave birth to the report?
It's what necessitated this report is actually the scale of the World Bank interventions in the water sector. As you know, the project which we evaluated in Big Debt, Big Thirst is the third national urban water sector reform program. Yes. And this is just the third iteration of the same project. The first one held in Enugu, Ogun, and another state. It was worth 250 million. The second iteration was hosted in Lagos and Cross River states, and it was worth 200 million. And the third hosted in Ekiti, Bauchi, and River states and other Nigerian states, worth 250 million.
Yes.
So the scale of these interventions alone is enough for any right-thinking person to even ask questions. And then when you put the scale of these investments and loans and other interventions, even by the EU, by AFDB, by other financial institutions, and you look at the reality of the state of water access in every state in Nigeria, it's enough to ask questions. So what is happening with these loans? Is a problem from the way it is being administered, or from the loans that have been granted, or is it in the management of the loans? And so to answer you directly, that was what led CAPPA to start asking these questions around what is happening, why are states taking massive loans and water is not flowing from taps.
We saw your report that was presented to the public last Friday in your office. But who carried out this research, and what were the modalities that was used?
Okay, this report was carried out by Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa, CAPPA.
Our mandate as CAPPA. Yeah, who were involved?
CAPPA.
Yes. I mean the people that were used and the professionals that were involved in the research.
Professionals that were involved
in the research. Modalities. What modalities were used in carrying out this research in the 3 states?
Okay, so to answer that, I will start with some of the research questions that we asked, which primarily were putting side by side the investment and the reality of water access. Yeah. And to ascertain that, we spoke to some key players in the government, ministries that were involved in managing the loan, and then we went to the streets. The areas that were mentioned in the World Bank documents that were found on the World Bank website, the areas that were supposed to be impacted by this loan, we went there, we spoke to traditional heads, we spoke to women in the markets, we spoke to people on the street, just asking and to find out the state of water access. On the government's part, we spoke to a lot of the people that were involved. The loan ended in 2020, but we spoke to a lot of the focal persons that were used by the state governments to manage these loans. One of the conditions for the loans by the World Bank was that there had to be a PIU, a project implementation unit, domiciled within the Ministry of Water, and we spoke to the focal heads for this loan to ascertain how the loan was given, how the loan was managed, just to make sure that we were getting some information and data that was solid.
Okay, so you were on ground in these three states. Your team went on ground and went there directly
Yes.
to meet people. What is the situation on ground in terms of water supply, despite this huge loan?
Okay, so I'm going to start with River
I
State.
think if you can give us the first tranche of the loan, when did the state government take this? I mean, the first loan, the first tranche of the loan, when did it come?
Do you mean the first leg of the National Urban Water?
Yes, when did the program kicked off?
Oh, okay. For the third leg of the urban water sector reform program, it kicked off in 2014. Okay. And it was supposed to end in 2019, but it ended in 2020. So now all the loans have been rounded up in all the three states.
Was the water supposed to be water supply supposed to be across all local government in the three states?
Yes. So actually, from the name, you can tell that this loan is actually supposed to affect just water in the urban areas for the three states. In River State, it was supposed to be in Port Harcourt and Obiakpo. In Bauchi State, it's supposed to be in Bauchi Metropolis. In Ekiti State, it's supposed to be within Ado, Iworoshogo, and some other places. But the scale of impact is not supposed to cover rural areas, just urban areas in all three states. And I want to answer your question about the state of water access. And I'm going to start with River State. In River State, one of our very important findings was that the World Bank had withdrawn from the loans in the state after disbursing about 30 million. And that was because River State could not keep up with the timeline, and there was another concurrent loan being run by the AFDB, Africa Development Bank.
Yes.
And that loan was supposed to be run side by side with the World Bank loan. That loan was worth $200 million. But the timelines for the two loans did not sync, so the World Bank had to withdraw. In Ekiti State, our finding was that at the time of our findings, water was not running anywhere in the state. In Bauchi State, our findings were a little better. There were areas where water was running, but it was not on a regular basis. Water was running at least once in a week, but it was for short periods of time and on a rotational basis.
That's in Bauchi State. I mean,
yes.
How many local government did your team visit?
In Bauchi State, we covered the whole of Bauchi Metropolis.
Okay.
Yes, that was the area of impact supposed to be covered by the loan.
And what you said? What was the source of what is the source of water supply in those places? Where do people get their water from?
Okay, so in Bauchi State, a lot of the respondents said that they got their water from streams, and rivers which pass through. And because of the terrain there, streams and rivers are actually quite a common thing in Bauchi State. There were also reports of wells, then in some other places, and especially in areas like the GRA, where people could afford, to dig their own borehole or to pay for a private tank, that was used by people who are richer to supplement their water. But for areas where they were not very well to do, they used streams or other sources of water. In Ekiti State, predominantly, almost everyone had their borehole or had dug a well in their compound. So it was that in the absence of public water, people have become their own messiahs by themselves, digging water by themselves, treating their water by themselves. Yeah.
What about River State? Knowing how that terrain is an oil-producing state, and we hear of spillage all the time. We know if you dig so far, in the ground, you may probably be seeing something like water may not be,
Contaminated
yeah, it
water,
may not be
yes.
something that
Yes,
people want to use. What's the situation in River
yes.
State?
So even in River State, actually, I shared the same sentiment with you before we went to the field. But the surprising thing we found in River State is that almost everyone had a borehole as well. And for those who do not have boreholes, there are people who are making a steady profit of selling water. So if you're able to dig, and you're right, because getting the surface water has been contaminated by the activities of corporations. Getting water there is a bit more difficult than getting water in other parts of the country. So what is happening in River State, if you do not have a borehole of your own, which of course you are going to treat with an enormous amount of money. In other parts of the country, you can dig a borehole and just fetch the water and drink. In River State, when you dig a borehole, you have to spend another. You need to have a separate budget to treat
To
the
treat the
water.
water.
Which of course, yes, which of course, if you do not have, there are people who do this and then sell the water to you. So we had water sale points in River State, so many of them.
So it's more like a double burden what you have in River
Of
State.
course, yes.
So this
And this is despite apart from the 80 million naira loan being withdrawn now by the World Bank, the AFDB has invested an additional $200 million loan that is currently running in River State.
and there is nothing, no project on ground to show this investment by the World Bank and the AFB in River State.
Yes, so I cannot speak about the AFDB, but the World Bank project was withdrawn, so we did not see any reason to continue to interrogate on that note.
The World Bank project was withdrawn because they could not meet up. You said the World Bank was not impressed with the way the money was being used by the state government.
No.
Or the timeline.
Okay, so
let
me explain what happened in River State. There were two loans, one by the AFDB, one by the World Bank. Then the areas of impact for the World Bank loan were mostly around the distribution of water. The loan was supposed to facilitate infrastructural development around the network of pipe distribution and some of the infrastructure that is involved in the distribution of water.
Yes.
That of the AFDB was around the source of water and the treatment of water. Now, you cannot distribute what has no source yet. So the World Bank was running faster than the AFDB loan, which means even if the World Bank loan had gone to completion, there wouldn't have been anything to distribute. It was just a mismatch of the two financial institutions. So I don't want to say anything about the management of the AFDB loan, but this was the reason that was given officially by the World Bank and some of the people that we spoke to on ground. That's what I mean when I say that the timeline did not quite.
Tell us more about the situation in Ekiti State.
Okay, in Ekiti State got $50 million dollars under the World Bank project, Third Urban Water Sector Reform Program. There were also other interventions I wouldn't like to go in, like the EU, another World Bank, this thing called SOWASH. But our findings in Ekiti State revealed that at the time of the study, there was nobody that was receiving water from anywhere. People had to rely on their privately dug borehole or their wells or whatever other source of water they could come up with by themselves. Residents were made to actually what we did. One of the key things that we found out in Ekiti State was, yes, we went to Ero Dam, we went to Ureje Dam. We did confirm that there was infrastructural improvement in these two major dams,
yes,
as a result of the injection of the World Bank loan. However, despite this purchase, this water is still not running because power is a big problem. In the meantime, while the state is trying to sort out the dams are not powered at all. We did find out that for water to run, the dam had to have 24 hours uninterrupted water, and that has not been able to be achieved. And in the meantime, the pipes that have the areas that have been piped are being destroyed and vandalized. The prepaid meters, because the Ekiti state government intended to run like the way NEPA does, they are prepaid. So it's a pay as you use the kind of situation that did not work. The meters have been vandalized because they are not working. The pipes underground have been vandalized because they are not working. Those that have not been vandalized, according to the engineers that we spoke to,
yes,
at the time that the state is finally able to, make use of this infrastructure, they may have been rust or other kinds of damage, which means they will have to pull out those pipes again and relay them. So that was the situation in Ekiti State.
In this three states, for example, let's say for Ekiti, what are the residents saying? Did your team speak with the residents?
Yes.
Knowing the enormous the amount that was taken by the state government.
Yes.
From the World
one
Bank?
of the things that we wanted to know when we spoke to the people on the street is, first of all, was there any form of consultation with you before the state government?
Are they even aware of this loan?
This loan. Marginally, I would say yes. A few people were aware, but also a significant portion just knew that, oh, we saw them laying pipes. We don't know where the money came from. We don't know if this was a loan or a grant. We don't know if this was a subvention from the federal government. We don't know if this was an allocation from the state government. But we saw them, laying pipes. Only few people knew that work was being done as a result of a loan from the World Bank. And the interesting thing is, people just wanted to get water, and there was a very strong sense of discontentment as we began to speak with them, and it came to that this was a loan, and people were discontented. So why on earth are we paying back on a loan for a facility for a service that we are not enjoying? This was the widespread feeling that we got from the people. For the people who knew that this was a loan, the reaction was unanimous. The World Bank project has failed, and it looks like the government has taken a loan that does not work. And it's really unfair that we and our children have to repay back this loan in a couple of years, and we have not enjoyed this service at all.
We noticed that in several states, not even these three states, across the country, a lot of state government are moving effort to privatize public water supply. Did you notice this in this state?
Yes. In fact, that's one of the troubling trends that we have started to notice at CAPPA. If you can recall, in 2020, the National Water Resources Bill was shut down at the federal level, and because that bill was not able to pass, we are seeing an increasing trend. We are seeing the same thing in Kaduna. Apart from these three states, we're seeing the same thing in Lagos State. We're seeing the same thing, like you said, in several states that are trying to privatize
the state public water corporation.
Yes, one of the things that we really hope that Big Debt, Big Thirst will do is to be able to inform state governments that privatization of water does not work. The World Bank will tell you that your state-run water board is not working, that you need to change it to a corporation, so that the private sector can invest, and this, it will just improve water access. And one of the things that we hope to do at CAPPA is to document the failures in Ekiti, Rivers, and Bauchi States, so we can point there and say, look, these things have not worked in these three states. The only thing that privatization does is it just hikes up the price, because once a business person comes in, they don't care about the public good of water. They just care about profits. Like we saw in River State, where people have capitalized on the issue of no water and no surface water to sell water at very exorbitant rates. That is what happens when you leave the provision of water to private players. They are able to dictate the price of it, and they leave the forces of demand and supply. And it's really unfair, because water is such a basic thing. You cannot go a day without using
Yes, I remember growing
this
up in
thing.
Lagos. Then public water was everywhere. You could see water. You could fetch. I
Yes.
mean, just beside your house. But nowadays the tap all have dried up. You don't seem to. You don't
Yes.
know what is happening. But let's go back to the report now. Did your team speak with any of the state government? Meet any of the state government this is what to ask them? This is what we have discovered. What was their reaction? Or did your team make effort to meet?
Yes, we made we contacted all the states. We contacted the state water corporations and spoke to them. We spoke to different ministries in the state just to buttress and solidify our findings. Apart from the reports that the World Bank gave on their websites and some of the World Bank documents that are publicly available. Um, I'm not sure if you're asking if we have returned these findings to the state. If that's what you are asking,
No, I mean during the findings when you were in this state,
oh,
did you make effort to
oh,
reach the state government to
yes,
say
of
this is what
course.
we noticed, or even this is
Yes,
what we noticed, or even the state water corporation board to see things for yourself? What did you discover, or what did you hear from the
yes,
government?
yes. So in all three states, we were able to speak to the state water corporations, and our questions were along the line of the management of the loan because these bodies were the ones that were mandated by the state to manage and implement the loan, and we wanted to know issues around the disbursement of the loan, the management of the loan, the coverage of the loan, and presently what is the state of water access now, and how do you compare it with what it was before the injection of the loan. So yes, we spoke extensively. In fact, a lot of our findings are based on our conversations with the state water corporations in Ekiti, Bauchi, and River States. We had extensive conversations with them.
Did the state government deny that this money was looted? This money was used for this project. Did they say anything like that?
Um, I don't think that we are saying that the money was looted. Um, CAPPA is a very people-focused body, so our questions largely centered on is water running. There may be questions around the management of, whether some of the money was used for what it was said it will be used for. And as a Nigerian, I want to believe that yes, there may have been issues of corruption, there may have been issues of appropriation, but the focus of our report at CAPPA is, as a citizen, when you open your tap, do you find water running, or do you have to spend an exorbitant amount of money to dig a borehole for yourself, treat your water, buy your drinking water, or even pay taxes? We have seen states where you even have to pay taxes on the borehole or the well that you have to dig for yourself. So what is the responsibility of the government? So that was the main focus of our report.
This report is out now. Is the World Bank, is CAPPA going to probably get in touch with the World Bank to send the report to them for further? This will probably influence the World Bank further cooperation with state government in Nigeria on water project or future relations with state government in across the country as it relates to water project.
No. And I'll tell you why. One of our recommendations at CAPPA is that the World Bank needs to hands off Nigeria's water sector. Whatever investments they are making in the sector have not materialized into any form of progress for the water sector. It's only giving us more problems. So our engagement is going to focus more on the Nigerian government, and it is in line with our recommendations that the management of water should remain within the purview of the government. The World Bank should not.
Are you saying are you saying the World Bank is not sincere in this loan?
Yes. And I'm going to give you an illustration. I told you that this loan to Rivers, Ekiti, and Bauchi States,
Yes,
is the third iteration of the loan. The first iteration was to Enugu Egun, Ogun State. And I think Kano, I'm not sure the third state, it was 250 million. And the World Bank on its own, the World Bank's independent evaluation group rated that project as moderately unsatisfactory, which meant that the outcomes of that project did not meet with the objectives. Did not, it didn't match. It just did not meet up.
Yes.
Despite that outcome, in the following year, 2005, the World Bank still disbursed an additional 200 million to Lagos and Cross River states. And these are loans. These are not grants. And this is a country that is, well, I'm sorry to say, but we're poor. Already we are grappling with debt. And if the World Bank says that it is a development bank and you have repeatedly injected funds, and by your own evaluation, you say this
project we are
not working well.
Yes,
it's not working well. So why do you keep
on sunken millions?
Exactly. So that's why we say that the World Bank is not being very sincere in these loans that it's given to the Nigerian government and terming as development loans. It's not developing us in any way. Rather, it's making life hard for us, and it is putting state government in debt.
And generation unborn will get to pay this loan.
Yes.
Finally, where do we go from here after this report? Where do we go from here? Over 70% of households in the country, or especially in rural areas, do not have access to water, or clean water. Some of them still drink through the stream. I mean, ponds. What is the way forward? Where do we go from here?
Forward.
We see so many states. We see so many states in the country privatizing water. Lagos, for example, is making effort towards that. The water corporation here is moribund. They're not working. We don't see public water tap are dry. Where do we go from here?
The first thing that
a lot of Nigerians now depend on pure
water.
To do? Pure water is even 600 per bag or so now. What is the way forward?
Yes, the first thing that Nigerian government needs to do is to invest more money in the public water sector. One of the recommendations or one of the fallouts of the World Bank is that once the World Bank injects some of these loans, which have this kind of conditions that make life more difficult for us, the state government feels like, there's no longer any need for us to put more money in the water sector. Like if you look at the budgets for Ekiti, Rivers, and Bauchi States, the allocation to water is less than 1%. It's
1%,
too small.
1% of the budget.
Yes, it is too small for a sector as important as water. So the first thing that the Nigerian government needs to do in departing away from loans that cripple the government and the people is to make sure that the government is allocating a significant amount of money. These things are not new. In the 1980s, water was running, and it was not because of the loan.
Even the 90s.
It was because, it was because the government was investing in water. There are several examples. There are several, instances where we have seen where if the government is investing in water, water will run. There's nothing like state-run water board is not working well. That is not true.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sifa Ikpa, the Program Officer, Water Campaign for CAPPA, for your insight on that report. Thank you very much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.